Have you ever been stuck in one of those meetings? You know the kind I'm talking about.
Oh, absolutely. The ones that just seem to drag on forever.
Right. It's been an hour. People are throwing around buzzwords like synergy or, circling back.
And nobody has actually said anything of substance.
Exactly. There's this thick, almost suffocating fog of politeness in the room. You can feel the tension because everyone knows the project is failing.
But nobody wants to be the bad guy.
Nobody wants to point it out. It just drains you. But then imagine the door opens or someone finally just leans forward.
Oh, I know this moment.
Right. And they don't just speak. They cut through that room like a laser beam. They say, stop. This isn't working. The data is wrong. We are wasting time.
And suddenly all the air just leaves the room.
It's shocking. It might even feel a little rude. But for the first time in an hour, you have absolute clarity.
That moment right there, that is the exact essence of what we are diving into today. It's a moment of absolute, almost violent clarity.
It's not comfortable.
No, it's not comfortable at all, but it is necessary.
Today, we are taking a deep dive into a personality profile that basically lives for that specific moment. We're looking at the FAAN profile from the Max Energy ME80 personality system.
And this is a really fascinating one.
It is. I have to say the archetype name for this profile is probably the most intense one we've ever covered. They call it the Truth Punisher.
The Truth Punisher. It sounds like a Marvel villain, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Or maybe a wrestling alter ego?
It really does. But before we get scared off by the name or, assume this is just about being a jerk in meetings, we need to understand the context here.
Right.
What exactly is the Max Energy ME80 system? Because it's not just your standard personality test, is it?
No, not at all. Most personality tests look at surface traits, like are you extroverted, are you agreeable, that sort of thing.
Like a checklist of behaviors.
Exactly. But the Max Energy ME80 system is more like looking at the operating system rather than the apps on the desktop. It maps out human energy patterns.
So it goes a lot deeper.
Way deeper. It looks at the internal wiring. How do you process information? How do you react to emotional stimuli? And crucially, how do you actually manifest action in the real world?
So we aren't just talking about behavior. We're talking about the engine under the hood that drives that behavior.
Precisely. And the FAAN Truth Punisher is a very specific, very high-intensity configuration of that operating system.
Okay. So what's their deal? What is their identity?
Their mission, if you want to call it that, is to operate on the boundary between truth and deception. They don't just prefer honesty. They view ambiguity as an existential threat.
Now, that's a key distinction I want to dig into for a second. Most people prefer honesty. I prefer honesty.
Sure.
But I definitely don't think I'm a truth punisher. What makes them so different from the rest of us?
It really comes down to their core identity. There is a hero section in the source material that gives us their manifesto.
Oh, I love a good manifesto.
It says, and I quote, "Between truth and deception, I draw a line, ending falsehood with uncompromising clarity."
Uncompromising clarity. That sounds intense.
It is. The FAAN profile is the natural enemy of evasion. You know those emails that use 3 paragraphs of corporate speak to basically say, I didn't finish the report?
Oh, my previous email dance. The passive-aggressive shuffle where we pretend we aren't blaming anyone.
Exactly. The Truth Punisher has zero tolerance for that dance. They view stalling or evading responsibility as a literal corruption of the system.
So they just won't play along.
They refuse to.
Yeah.
And here's the fascinating part about their control mechanism, which is how they view the world. The report uses a very visceral word to describe their philosophy. It talks about hemorrhaging.
Hemorrhaging, like bleeding out.
Yes. They believe that without clear, hard boundaries, any system, whether that's a company, a family, a relationship, will hemorrhage energy. It will bleed out.
Oh, wow.
To a FAN, a maybe or a we'll see, looks like a massive risk of collapse. It looks like a leak in the hull of a ship.
So when they step in and punish the truth, when they call someone out abruptly in a meeting, they aren't trying to be mean.
No.
They're trying to stop the bleeding.
That recontextualizes it completely, doesn't it? It's like applying a tourniquet. It hurts, it's tight, it might leave a bruise, but it saves the limb.
That makes a lot of sense.
Their philosophy is simple. Once a principle is violated or once disorder is confirmed, you do not wait. You intervene. You end the stalling immediately.
Okay, I'm starting to see the real value here, but I want to understand the mechanics. How does their brain actually do this so fast? The ME80 system breaks this down into an energy matrix, right?
It does.
Can we sort of pop the hood and look at the engine? Let's go through the 4 layers.
Let's do it. The energy matrix for the FAN profile is fascinating because it has a very pronounced drive and control axis. It's built for speed and correction.
Okay, so what's the first layer?
Layer 1 is the IP, or inner value layer.
All right, let's walk through the chain reaction here. Say something happens, someone lies in a meeting. What happens in this IP layer?
The IP layer is the ignition. It's the spark. For the truth punisher, this energy drives initiation. Their engine is always idling, waiting to correct the course.
They're constantly on the lookout.
They are not passive observers. The moment their values detect something is off a lie, a discrepancy, a lazy excuse of them, the engine revs. They feel a physical compulsion to engage.
So they literally can't just sit there and let it slide. It's not just a passing thought, it's an impulse to act.
It violates their internal wiring to let it slide. And that spark then immediately moves to layer 2, the IQ layer.
Now, usually when we hear IQ, we think of intelligence tests, puzzle solving.
Right, but in the ME80 system, this refers to emotional activation, or more accurately for the FAAN, structure and principle judgment.
Wait, emotional activation, but the report says they judge based on principles. That sounds like the complete opposite of emotion.
That is the unique wiring of the FAAN. Their emotional trigger isn't, do I like this person? Or is this polite?
So what is it?
It's, does this make sense? Is this true? Does this fit the principle? This layer acts as a ruthless logic filter. It judges incoming information strictly based on established standards.
So while everyone else is feeling the vibe of the room and trying not to upset anyone, the FAN is checking the blueprints.
Exactly. They are filtering the world through a grid of logic. If the input doesn't fit the grid, if it's a lie or an excuse, it gets flagged immediately.
And that leads us to the third part, the EQ layer.
Yes. Layer 3, the EQ or decision calculation layer.
The source material defines this as emotional detachment and understanding. This seems super contradictory to me.
It does sound like an oxymoron at first.
Right. How can you have understanding if you are detached? Usually, we associate EQ with empathy and feeling what other people feel.
This is probably the most misunderstood part of this entire profile. Think of a surgeon in the ER. A trauma patient comes in, it's chaotic, there's blood everywhere, family members are screaming.
It's a high-stress environment.
Exactly. Now, if the surgeon absorbs all that fear and panic, if they feel everything the family is feeling, their hands will shake, they can't work. To save the patient, the surgeon must detach.
They have to step back from the emotion to see the anatomy clearly.
Precisely. The FAN uses this EQ layer to scrub away the emotional fog we talked about earlier. They detach so they can calculate the most effective move.
Wow.
It allows them to make hard decisions that other people are just too afraid or too emotionally entangled to make. They cut the cord because they know it's necessary, not because they don't feel anything.
That makes so much sense. It's tactical detachment. And finally, we hit layer 4, manifestation.
The output. Because of that strong drive axis, the FAN is a highly externalized profile. They don't just sit there quietly thinking, wow, that guy is lying.
They actually do something about it.
They act. They enforce the order visibly. When a FAN decides a boundary has been crossed, everyone in the room knows it.
So the loop is spark of initiation in the IP, filter for truth in the IQ, detach for clarity in the EQ, and strike in the manifestation layer.
It is a rapid-fire loop that turns confusion into order in seconds.
This connects perfectly to what the report calls their inner traits, specifically the principle-driven essence. It seems like they just have this sort of X-ray vision for BS.
They really do. Their mechanism is built on rapid information filtering. In a complex scenario like a business deal where everyone is bluffing, the FAN ignores the nice soups, the fancy lunch, the compliments.
All the fluff.
All the fluff. They focus entirely on the facts. They are anchored to the truth.
So while I'm distracted by the free appetizers, they're noticing that the numbers on page 4 don't match the numbers on page 10.
Exactly. And the trigger for them is transgression. If you cross a line, if you lie, or if you violate a core agreement, the reaction is instant.
There's no hesitation.
None. To you listening right now, if you identify with this or know someone who does, it's crucial to realize they don't view vagueness as just a different communication style. They view it as a threat to survival.
That explains the intensity so well. If I'm being vague, I'm not just annoying them, I'm actively endangering the mission.
You're putting holes in the ship.
But in these deep dives, superpowers usually come with a cost. What is the shadow side of the truth punisher?
The shadow is what the report calls the harsh judgment tendency. It's the direct result of that sheer speed we just talked about.
Because they process it so fast.
Because the distance between their judgment in the IQ layer and their action in the manifestation layer is so incredibly short, they compress what we call repair space.
Repair space. That's a really interesting term. What does that actually look like in real life?
Think about a normal conflict. You realize someone messed up on your team. Usually you pause. You think, well, maybe they were tired. Maybe they didn't understand the instructions. Maybe their kid is sick.
You give them the benefit of the doubt.
You give them a little room to explain or fix it. That is repair space. It allows for context.
And the FAAN just skips that entirely.
They often do. They cut clean. It is highly efficient, but it ignores context. They might overlook why the mistake happened.
Right, like maybe the software crashed. It wasn't the employee's fault.
Exactly. Maybe the process was broken, not the person. But the FAAN sees the violation, the error, and just drops the hammer.
So the person on the receiving end doesn't feel corrected. They feel condemned.
They feel attacked.
Yeah.
And when people feel attacked, they get defensive. They stop learning. So the FAAN thinks they're fixing the problem. They're saying, hey, I stopped the error. But they might actually be destroying the team's morale in the process.
It's like using a sledgehammer to hang a picture frame. You get the nail in, sure, but you put a giant hole in the drywall.
And you scare the neighbors, and now no one wants to come over for dinner.
Speaking of dinner, let's talk about how this plays out socially. Because if you're a truth punisher at work, that's one thing. But what if you're a truth punisher in a friendship or a marriage?
The overarching theme for social relations here is boundary settlement. In their personal lives, the truth punisher is that friend who will tell you your partner is toxic about 6 months before you are ready to hear it.
Oof, the friend who doesn't just nod and say, yeah, that sucks, but says, why are you still doing this? Here are the facts. Look at the data.
They are close to you, but they are not indulgent. They speak the truth, and they simply do not tolerate pretense. They value commitment and responsibility way more than warmth or comfort.
They won't sit there and let you wallow in self-pity.
Never. Not if they think you are lying to yourself.
That sounds really intense, but also kind of incredibly valuable.
It is a massive double-edged sword. On the pro side, friends and colleagues find immense comfort in their decisiveness. In a world where everyone ghosts everyone or plays mind games, the FAAN is solid rock.
You never have to guess where you stand with them.
If they are still at the table, they are committed to you.
That is pretty rare these days. But what about the con side? What happens when it goes wrong?
The con is the sharpness of those boundaries. Once a line is crossed, the FAAN personality has a tendency to sever swiftly.
The door slam.
The door slam, the deadbolt, and the alarm system turned on. There is rarely a long, drawn-out breakup or a negotiation period. They decide the boundary was violated, and they end it.
Just like that.
For the person on the other side, that can be devastating. It feels like they were executed without a trial.
So if you're listening to this and thinking, wow, this is me or this is my boss, where does this personality actually belong? Where do they thrive? The report talks heavily about business value.
This profile is incredibly commercially valuable, but you have to put them in the right seat on the bus. They're the fixers. You want them in environments that require rapid clearing and eliminating redundancy.
So definitely not in the brainstorming and good vibes department.
Definitely not. You don't put them in the creative ideation room. You want them in project control and critical decision-making.
Okay, give me an example of that.
If a project has been stuck in development hell for 2 years, everyone is arguing, nobody knows what's going on, you bring in a truth punisher.
And what do?
They will walk in, completely ignore the office politics, look at the mess, and say, this works, this doesn't, you're fired, you're promoted, we launch on Tuesday.
They stop the hemorrhaging of time and resources.
Exactly. They're also top tier in crisis management and high-pressure negotiation.
See, negotiation surprises me a little bit. I would think they'd be too harsh to be good negotiators. Wouldn't they just offend the other side and blow the deal?
In low-stakes negotiation, maybe. But in high-stakes negotiation, we're talking corporate mergers, crisis situations, massive lawsuits. Emotional noise causes bad deals.
People get scared and concede too much.
Exactly. They give up leverage because they just want the tension to end. The FAAN cuts right through that panic. They look at the leverage and the facts. They don't get paralyzed by the what-ifs.
They are the pilot who can land the plane in the storm because they aren't freaking out about the lightning. They're just watching the instruments.
That is a perfect analogy. You want that absolute certainty when the stakes are high. The report also highly recommends them for fields like compliance, risk control, and governance.
Because they draw the red lines.
Yes. They are the guardians of the standard.
Yeah.
They are the ones who say, this is the red line. We do not cross it under any circumstances, period.
Every company needs that person. even if they aren't the most popular person at the office holiday party.
Right. You might not want to have a beer with them every Friday, but you definitely want them checking the safety brakes on the elevator.
So we've looked at the light and the shadow. We've seen the mechanics of the IP, IQ, EQ, and manifestation layers. What is the big takeaway here? Because it feels like the FAN has a really hard lesson to learn if they want to reach their full potential.
They do. The FAN Truth Punisher is a completely necessary force. We often talk about empathy and flexibility as the ultimate virtues in modern society. But without structure, without truth, without boundaries, systems collapse.
We need the backbone.
We do. But the ultimate growth for a FAN lies in the conclusion of the ME80 report. There is a gold sentence here that I think is just beautiful. It offers a clear path forward for them.
I have it right here. Let me read it. It says, when the Truth Punisher preserves space for review and repair beyond their sharpness, boundaries become not just endpoints, but stable launch pads for systems to continue advancing.
Stable launch pads. That is the critical shift.
That's a huge shift in perspective.
It really is. Think about it. If your boundary is just a wall you run into, it stops people. It hurts them. But if your boundary is a floor you stand on, it lets everyone build higher.
That is such a powerful distinction. The goal isn't just to cut things off or punish people, it's to create a solid foundation so everyone else can succeed.
Exactly. When the FAN learns to pause just for a second to allow that repair space, their clarity stops being a weapon and starts being a tool for construction.
They stop being just the punisher and become the architect.
And that's a much better role to play.
It really makes you realize that sometimes the absolute kindest thing you can do is be completely clear about what is true, as long as you leave a little room for people to be human.
Clarity is kindness, eventually.
You know, it makes me wonder, though, something not in the report, but just thinking out loud, what happens when two truth punishers are in the same room and they completely disagree on what the objective truth is?
Oh, that is a clash of titans right there. An unstoppable force meeting an immovable object. It would certainly be an efficient argument, even if it's terrifying to watch.
I bet. Well, this has been a truly fascinating look into the FAAN profile. I feel a little sharper just talking about it.
It does have that effect. It forces you to look at where you might be tolerating fog in your own life.
For you listening, if this resonated, maybe you realize you are the truth punisher, or you finally understand why your business partner or spouse argues the way they do this analysis comes from the Max Energy ME80 Personality Assessment Report.
It's a remarkably deep system with a lot more nuance than we could cover, even in this deep dive.
Absolutely. If you want to go deeper and explore this for yourself, you can head over to their official website at www.maxenergylife.com.
Or if you want to see what the community is discussing and learn more, you can search for them on Facebook.
The search terms are a mix of English and Chinese, so we want to be specific here for you if you want to find the original source.
Yes, the search term is Max Energy, followed by the Chinese characters for Polyenergy Personality Studies. That's Max Energy's up. Or you can search for Metanergy and Energy Personality Psychology. That's Metanergy War E.
We'll put those exact terms in the show notes so you don't have to worry about memorizing the spelling right now.
Please do.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. It's been real. It's been honest.
And hopefully it's been clear.
Until next time, keep seeking your own clarity.